The distant birdsong and the gentle rush of a river were the first sounds I registered each morning. Sunlight, dappled and golden, streamed through the window of my rustic cabin. Maps, meticulously marked with trails and landmarks, covered a large wooden table. I, Gideon Wells, at 30, leaned over one, sipping coffee, my eyes scanning a topographical map. My movements were efficient, my expression calm. I wore worn hiking boots and a faded flannel shirt. My connection to the wilderness wasn't just a job. It was a birthright, a calling etched into my very being. I grew up in Ashland, Oregon, a small, artsy city nestled in the Rogue Valley, famous for its Shakespeare Festival and, more importantly to me, its proximity to the vast, untamed beauty of the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument. My grandfather, a grizzled old logger turned park ranger, taught me to read the forest like a book, to understand the language of the wind through the pines, the subtle shifts in animal tracks, the ancient wisdom held within the earth. After a brief, unfulfilling stint in a city office job, the pull of the wild became too strong to ignore. I returned to Ashland, got my certifications, and opened Wells Wilderness Expeditions 5 years ago. My reputation as a guide was impeccable. I knew every trail, every landmark, every hidden spring. My clients trusted me implicitly to lead them safely through the untouched beauty of the region, particularly the more remote sections of the Whispering Pines Wilderness area, a place I considered my second home. Winds picking up. Good. Keeps the bugs down. I murmured to myself, a soft habit. I packed my worn backpack with supplies. First aid kit, water purification tablets, compass, a battered copy of Flora of the Whispering Pines. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves as I stood at the trailhead. A weathered sign reading, Whispering Pines Wilderness Area. The forest loomed behind me, ancient and imposing, its towering old-growth trees casting long, deep shadows even in the morning light. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. A small group of hikers approached. Liam, in his 20s, enthusiastic and a little clumsy, adjusted his new backpack. Sarah, his older sister, in her 30s, was more pragmatic, checking her watch. 2 other hikers, a quiet older couple, stood slightly apart. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Whispering Pines. I'm Gideon Wells, your guide. We're heading into a rarely visited section today, deep into the heart of the old growth. It's truly magnificent, I said, offering a practiced, reassuring warmth. Awesome. Heard this place is practically untouched. Like ancient? Liam exclaimed, excitedly. Sarah glanced at the dense trees, a slight wariness in her eyes. Just safe, right? No bears, no getting lost. I chuckled confidently. Safer than downtown. I know these woods like the back of my hand. Every trail, every landmark. You're in good hands. I led them into the forest. The light immediately dimmed, the canopy overhead forming a cathedral ceiling. The air grew cooler, heavier. A profound silence settled, broken only by our footsteps on the soft earth. I felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a fleeting sense of unease I couldn't quite place. I dismissed it, just a guide's intuition being overactive. The woods are always a little different, day to day. Hours later, we were at a small, secluded clearing beside a babbling stream. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, creating a mosaic of light and shadow. We'd stopped for a lunch break. Liam was skipping stones across the stream. Sarah was taking photos with her phone. The older couple were quietly eating sandwiches. I turned my back for a moment, pulling out my map to double-check our route for the afternoon, a habit ingrained from years of guiding. I folded the map, turned back to the clearing. The clearing was empty. My breath hitched. My eyes darted around. Liam's half-eaten sandwich lay on a rock. Sarah's phone was on the mossy ground, screen still lit. The older couple's backpacks leaned against a tree, but no one was there.
No sounds. No screams.
No frantic calls. No rustling in the underbrush. No footprints leading off the worn path. Just an eerie, absolute void where 5 people had been moments before. "Hello? Liam? Sarah?" I whispered, disbelieving. Silence. The stream continued to babble, oblivious. The birdsong had stopped. The forest felt unnaturally quiet. Oppressive, my heart began to pound, a frantic drum against my ribs. I dropped my own pack, pulling out my whistle, blowing 3 sharp, piercing blasts. The sound echoed through the trees, swallowed by the vastness. No answer. I began to search, frantically, systematically. I called their names, my voice growing hoarse. I pushed through dense ferns, checked behind ancient fallen logs, scanned the tree line. Nothing. No sign of struggle, no overturned gear, no broken branches. It's as if they simply dissolved. Days later, the forest was crawling with search and rescue teams. Police, dogs, helicopters buzzed overhead. I was a hollow shell, guiding them, pointing out every detail of the last known location. The search is massive, relentless, but no trace is found. No discarded clothing, no dropped water bottles, no footprints beyond the clearing. Distant sirens wailed as I sat across from a grim-faced detective. The room was cold, sterile. "Mr. Wells, we've exhausted all avenues. It's unprecedented. No evidence of foul play, no signs of an animal attack. It's like they just vanished. We're calling off the active search." The detective sighed. Weary that I stared, numb. The case went cold. But for me, it was just beginning. Weeks later, I was back at the trailhead. I was thinner, my eyes haunted. The wilderness I once loved, my second home, now felt fundamentally changed. It was hostile, oppressive, and seemed to watch me with an unseen malevolence. I carried a small, digital voice recorder that I walked the same trail, compelled to find answers, to understand. The air was still, but I began to hear it. Faint, desperate calls on the wind, always just beyond my reach, like whispers carried on a distant breeze. I paused, straining my ears. "Liam? Sarah?" I whispered to myself. The whispers seemed to coalesce, forming fragments of sound, too indistinct to understand, yet undeniably human. I dismissed them as auditory hallucinations, echoes of my trauma, my guilt manifesting in cruel ways. I recorded, but the playback yielded only the sound of the wind. I started experiencing inexplicable cold spots. Even on warm days, pockets of icy air that made my breath mist. A persistent feeling of being watched from the dense shadows between the towering trees. A sensation of unseen eyes tracking my every move. I spun around, but there was nothing. Just the ancient, silent trees. Days turned into weeks. I continued my solitary patrols, driven by a desperate, consuming need. I was deep in the forest, far from any marked trail that I found it. A dropped water bottle, Liam's, but it's not simply dropped. It's placed precisely on a moss-covered rock, surrounded by a perfect spiral of small, gray stones. I stared, my blood running cold. This isn't random. Further on, I found Sarah's lost hat. It's perched on a broken branch, and beneath it, a strange symbol made of twigs, carefully intertwined, resembling a distorted, grasping hand. I touched it, a shiver running through me. The air around it was colder than anywhere else. "What is this? Who's doing this?" I muttered, terrified that I continued, my heart pounding. I found a single hiking boot, one of the older couples. It's placed upright, filled with a small pile of personal items. A crumpled tissue, a smooth river stone, a single, dried wildflower. It's an unnatural cairn, a chilling display. The arrangements seem to be leading me deeper, a silent, horrifying invitation. I tried to decipher them, my mind racing, growing increasingly desperate, I stopped by a still forest pool, its surface dark and reflective. I leaned over, looking at my own gaunt reflection. For a fleeting moment, a distorted, ghostly image flickered beside my own. Liam's grinning face, then Sarah's worried eyes, then the older couple, their faces contorted in silent screams. They vanished the moment I tried to focus, leaving only my own terrified reflection staring back. The calls on the wind became clearer, more distinct, no longer just whispers but actual voices, thin and reedy, yet undeniably human. I could almost make out individual words, pleading, crying out my name. Ethan, help us, join us. The last part sent a jolting shock of terror through me. Join us. I stumbled back, tripping over a root, my mind reeling. I pulled out my recorder, pressed play, but it yielded only static, the mocking silence of the woods. The sound of turning pages, quiet murmurs, filled the local public library. I was hunched over ancient books, far from the forest. I was researching frantically, old town records, forgotten Native American legends, obscure historical accounts of the Whispering Pines. My cabin was too close to the forest. I needed distance, a place of concrete knowledge. I found unsettling details. Stories of other disappearances over centuries, not just in recent times. Local legends of a sentient, malevolent spirit of the woods, referred to in old texts as the Root Mother or the Devouring Green. Tales of people who went into the forest and never came out. Their souls said to be absorbed by the ancient trees. That I found accounts of ancient rituals performed in the forest by forgotten tribes, dark ceremonies involving offerings to the earth. A specific, sacred, and dangerous site mentioned repeatedly: the Heartwood Glade, a clearing marked by a particularly ancient, gnarled oak, said to be the oldest living thing in the region. Heavy rain lashed against the roof of my cabin. I was back, surrounded by my research, maps, books, printouts. My face was pale, illuminated by the single desk lamp. I connected the vanishing, the arranged belongings, the reflections, the calls, and the historical accounts. It's not just a forest. It's alive, I whispered, horrified. A dawning realization. I paced, running a hand through my hair. The woods didn't just swallow them, it's keeping them. The forest itself is a sentient, malevolent entity, a living, breathing predator that claims those who venture too deep. I said to myself, my voice trembling. I looked at a map, my finger tracing a path towards the Heartwood Glade. The hikers are trapped within it, their consciousnesses absorbed, their forms used as lures. And now the forest wants me to join them. The calls, they're not just pleas for help. They're an insidious invitation. I said, my voice filled with dread. That I stared at the map, then at my reflection in the dark window. For a moment, a faint, distorted face appeared behind my own. Sarah's. Her lips move, forming a silent word, "Come." Days later, I was back in the forest, deeper than I'd ever dared go alone. The forest's attempts to lure me were now overt. The arranged belongings form a clear path, leading me deeper, each item a breadcrumb of terror. Liam's hiking boots, now side by side, pointing directly ahead. Sarah's hat, perched on a low branch, its brim turned towards the path. That I passed a small, still pool. I glanced at it. The reflection is clearer, more tempting. Liam, Sarah, the older couple. They appeared peaceful, smiling, their hands outstretched, beckoning me. Come, Gideon, join us, be one with us. Peace awaits, the forest whispered, multi-layered, seductive, almost a song. That I stumbled, my mind reeling. I saw fleeting visions. Liam laughing, Sarah's comforting touch, the older couple sharing a quiet moment. They walked past him, translucent, their forms shimmering like heat haze. I felt phantom touches, cold fingers brushing my arm, a breath on my neck. The line between reality and the forest's illusion blurred, becoming indistinguishable that I found myself at the edge of the Heartwood Glade. It's a natural clearing, unnaturally silent, dominated by a colossal, ancient oak tree, its gnarled branches reaching like skeletal arms towards the sky. Its bark is dark, almost black, and seemed to pulse faintly. This is the heart of the entity that a low, guttural groan from the earth, deafening whispers. As I approached the ancient oak, the haunting reached its crescendo. The voices were deafening now, a swirling vortex of pleas, screams, and seductive promises, all calling my name, echoing from the very air. The reflections solidified into terrifyingly real apparitions, the hikers standing around the base of the tree, their faces distorted, their eyes black, their bodies swaying unnaturally. The forest itself seemed to writhe. The trees groaned, their branches swaying violently though there was no wind. The ground beneath my feet pulsed faintly, a slow, rhythmic throb. Dark, viscous sap oozed from the oak's bark, forming grotesque patterns. We are the forest. We are the memories. We are the END. A deep, resonant hum, layered with screams and whispers, reverberated through me. The full nature of the forest entity was revealed in a horrifying mental assault. It fed on consciousness, on life force, trapping souls within its ancient roots and branches, growing stronger with each new victim. The hikers are not just dead. They are absorbed, their identities slowly dissolving into the collective consciousness of the forest, their individual torments becoming fuel for its growth. Their forms are merely echoes. Lures. Liam's face appeared before me, twisted in silent agony, his mouth opening in a soundless scream. Sarah reached out, her eyes wide with terror. Then her form dissolved into a swirling green mist that flowed into the tree. Ragged breathing was the only sound now, save for the forest's insidious hum. I was on my knees, overwhelmed, my mind assaulted by the collective agony of the absorbed souls. The forest's presence was immense, ancient, utterly malevolent. Join us, Gideon. Peace, understanding, forever. A seductive chorus of many voices, promising oblivion, whispered that I saw the hikers' apparitions, beckoning, their faces now serene, almost blissful. I felt a pull, an irresistible urge to surrender, to let the forest consume me, to end the terror, to find the peace they seemed to offer. But then, a flicker of defiance, a memory of my own life, my love for the tangible world, my stubborn refusal to be broken. I saw my cabin, my maps, the quiet solitude I cherished. I remembered my reputation for safety, for bringing people out of the wilderness.
No.
I gasped, defiant that I pushed myself up, my legs trembling. I reached into my pack, pulled out my lighter. I looked at the ancient oak, its pulsing bark. It's too vast, too ancient to burn. But I can try to sever the connection, to make it feel my defiance. I pulled out a small, dried bundle of sage I always carried, a superstitious habit from an old guide. I ignited it, the smoke acrid in the heavy air. The forest roared, a sound of ancient, wounded rage, a collective scream of fury. The ground shook, trees thrashed. I stumbled, scrambling back, away from the Heartwood Glade, away from the terrifying pull. The distant wind was the only sound now, mixed with my ragged breathing. I stumbled out of the tree line, collapsing onto the rough ground at the very edge of the whispering pines. I was scratched, bruised, my clothes torn, my mind reeling. The oppressive feeling of the forest slowly receded, replaced by the mundane sounds of distant traffic. I survived. I escaped. That I sat there for a long time, shivering, staring back at the dark, silent wall of trees. The calls were gone, but a faint echo, a phantom whisper, still lingered at the edge of my hearing. I knew with chilling certainty that I could never guide tours again. My connection to nature, once my solace, was irrevocably twisted into fear as I began to walk aimlessly towards the nearest road. After a mile, I saw a small, dilapidated cabin, smoke curling from its chimney. An old man sat on the porch, whittling a piece of wood. He had sharp, knowing eyes and a face lined with years of living in the wild. This was Mr. Henderson, a recluse, a local legend, a guide from generations past. Mr. Henderson looked up as I approached, his eyes fixing on my haunted face. He didn't look surprised. "You found the glade, didn't you, boy? The root mother. She tried to keep you," he said, his voice raspy, ancient. I stopped dead, my blood turning to ice. The hikers, the ones who vanished, they weren't normal people, were they? They hired me. They led me there, I said, my voice cracking, desperate. Mr. Henderson nodded slowly, his gaze steady, filled with a profound, ancient sorrow. They were already part of her, son, just echoes. She sent them to find you. She always needs a new guide, a new set of eyes, a new mind to absorb, he said quietly, chillingly. I stared, a horrifying realization solidifying. I wasn't hired by people. I was hired by ghosts, by the forest itself. She wants me to join them, I whispered, utterly broken. Mr. Henderson nodded, a sigh like rustling leaves. She always does. You got out, for now. But the forest, it never truly forgets, and it never truly lets go. I looked back at the whispering pines. The trees seemed to sway, a silent, ominous threat. I live, but with the knowledge of what truly lurks in the wilderness, dedicating my life to warning others, though few will believe me. I am forever marked by my terrifying encounter, a guide no more, but a haunted messenger. The forest remains, a silent, ominous predator, waiting for its next hire.